Good day, everyone. I am Christine, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone to today's webinar, The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is Now the Law. Learn how the overview of the OBBBA Act will impact the workplace. I would like to introduce our presenter for today, Margie Falk. Margie Falk, BHR, SHRM, CP, HR Compliance Advisor Speakers, HR Compliance Solutions. LLC is a senior-level human resources professional with over 15 years of HR management and compliance experience. Margie holds a professional human resources certification from the HR Certification Institute and SHRM CP certifications from the Society of Human Resources Management. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Margie.
Well, thank you, Christine. Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone in attendance today. Now, we are going to get into the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, what it states and when it will start. We're going to learn how the OBBBA overview presented impacts the workplace. We're going to also focus our efforts on some of the workplace issues, like no taxes on overtime and tips. Okay, how long will it work and how long it will last? We're going to learn how the tax provisions will help small businesses and some industries. Now we're going to also learn how payroll will need to be adjusted to track how tips and overtime are tracked and the increase in HR and payroll administrative work. We're going to learn how the proposed job growth will be increased and in which industries. We're also going to see what the deductions will be for small businesses and partnerships. We're going to learn about the challenges with Medicaid cuts and how employers can mitigate them. And we're going to learn how the IRS tax codes will change to accommodate the new provision. So we want to start from the beginning. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is the law now. It was in legislation as the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so we're going to learn how the twists and turns are to make this law, viable. And there are going to be some pros and cons depending on what goals that you are managing. The goal of this training, though, is to provide you with all the elements, all the resources for you to keep up to date. These, although it's a law, what we're going to find is there are changes and also explanations that will happen throughout the next 6 to 8 weeks. So what we have here are some charts indicating what the changes impact. So let's look at some of what the training objectives are. Now, the One Big Beautiful Bill, known as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, impacts the workplace through tax cuts, changes to deductions, and the potential impacts on employment and the economy. So when we start looking at this, we're going to look at how it impacts employers and the workplace. There's also an executive compensation. Now, what is it that's important about the compensation? So let's talk about how this started, when it was initiated, and also one of the most important aspects is, so how will this affect employers? There's tax changes on tips and overtime. Now there's a strategic HR overhaul in disguise. Now we are learning that it's taxes and tax relief. So no tax on tips. So what does that really mean? So let's look at some of the tip concepts. What I like about this chart is it tells you what it is, how long it is, who's qualified, how much, what the deductions are. Now, exempting tips from taxes, the IRS has not yet provided guidance in light of the new law. How about overtime? So how will no tax on overtime affect employers? Who qualifies for no tax on overtime? So let's make sure we remember exempt versus non-exempt. Tax implications of overtime pay. There are compliance challenges for employers and for HR and payroll teams. So also remember, there are compliance, audits, and enforcement, making sure Your payroll system meets the requirements. So let's get into some of the other benefits, okay? Employee benefits. The key takeaways here. So the next few slides are going to give you more opportunity to understand what the eligibility is. So what should we do now? The OBBBA Act introduces both opportunities and compliance requirements. And then we have a 529 plan, expansion. Now there is something to be said of the Educational Assistance Program. There's the deductions for seniors, fringe benefits, impact of Medicaid with the OBBBA Act. Medical leave credit is a state-based program. There's the employer-provided child care credit. You can benefit. Review your eligibility for new deductions on tips, overtime, and auto loan interest. Let's talk about small businesses, independent contractors, freelancers, gig workers. So QBI deduction, what is it? Qualified business income. Some of these business deductions are based on your manufacturing and property. And these charts just indicate what we spoke. Best practice for small business. Here's the information on opportunity zones. Here's the construction contracts. Here's some other industry-specific breaks, 1099 reporting thresholds. So remember I mentioned to you about the SALT deduction. Now, we've been hearing about that for a long time. What are they? State and local tax deductions, lifetime estate and gift tax exemptions, energy tax breaks, car loan interest deduction. We're going to end on immigration enforcement. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Operations. The DHS has the enforcement funds thanks to the OBBBA Act. There are new fees on immigration applications for those of you who have foreign employees. Tax planning under the OBBBA. Some have said the laws bring stability to the bones of individual tax, fiscal and economic impact. There's other challenges. Here's what the big picture is. It improves certain aspects and it limits others. The last couple of slides is going to be key takeaways. And lastly, it's important to understand how the impact may or may not be relevant to you, your employer, and your employees. Christine, thank you for being such a great partner. And I want to say to all of you, so long.
Thank you, Margie. That concludes the session for today. Thank you, everyone, for participating. You may all disconnect now and have a great day ahead. Bye.
Bye-bye.